Okay. Sorry about that, guys. My bad. I'm back. I just had to take care of something before we start, and now I'm ready. So we're going to be getting into our game very, very shortly. Here we go. I was just messaging Kibler admin. Okay. All right. Perfect. So, let me go ahead and... Is BBG still on my friend list? I think I removed him. What's your code again? Think I removed you. Okay. So, we're back. We're ready. You guys know the lineups. You guys know the decks. BBG, last time we played him in a tournament was the last Twitch Rivals, actually, where we won. This time, it's going to be pretty close to even. I think I have a good lineup into him. A couple of trolley cards here. Laurent Proteges might literally lose me in the series. Very possible. I'm asking for BBG's code since I think I removed him. Let me see. Please start now when ready. Okay, perfect. Oops. CCJY9. What the hell? Let me fix my camera. And we should just be good to challenge him. We unbenched the Kench, which is pretty pog. Honestly, it's like, I do have a fairly funny lineup. We have ARAM and we have Tahm Kench, which is pretty pog. Pog for the frog. Alright, guys. Here we go. Wait, we don't know the bans yet? Oh, both War Mother's decks were banned. Okay, sounds right. Alright. Okay, so right off the bat, we're getting the Draven Swain deck. This is a really, really interesting one. Probably have to mulligan a little bit more aggressively here. Don't think I can keep Broadbacked or Astral here, especially with Starspring in hands. Starspring might be really hard to use here, since he's going to keep my board pretty narrow. I think this is actually a matchup where I kick Starspring. It might be. Like, Tahm Kench we're very, very dependent on. I'll keep it in the opening hands. It's like, it's almost a matchup where I'm kicking it. And we have to keep Soraka as well. We drew a little badly. Especially with Starspring, we need a one-drop. Doesn't have to be Krusty. It could be what's her name. Didn't get it here. Getting our unit man out of our hand is kind of nice. Hold on 1 second. Sorry for the pause. I'm just making sure I have the deck list pulled up because I'm going to be looking at it very, very often. If I pass, he kind of knows I have hard gun. Symmetrical passing is pretty bad for me. Just gets him closer to Leviathan turns. And hard gun isn't really that great here. It doesn't do much against Draven, which is usually his play anyway. I probably have no choice but to just play Soraka.
To heal and protect.
But yeah, if I pass there, he'll pass back, burn both of our mana. Just because his deck his deck doesn't necessarily have the late game, but when we're both burning mana, it certainly does. Because I need to be playing my mana for my deck to have the late game, whereas he just needs to wait until the Leviathan turn, basically. So if I attack now, it's a bluffable spot for Pale Cascade, basically. He'll never be able to block because I could have Pale Cascade and just kill the Draven. And he has no re-response to Pale Cascade. So I have a free attack here that he simply can't block.
Hey, buddy, what you doing?
Am I missing something? What am I missing here? He's got a second Draven and he doesn't mind having the first one die? He's just trading Draven with Whirling Death. That's a big trade down for him, though. Because he'd have to use... Like, his axe has no good discard target. To take that block, he literally has to have the second Draven in hands. Did he just troll?
Draven down.
Okay. Got the one flock. That's too bad for me. That's definitely a misplay. There's certain hands that I can do that with, but not this hand. Yeah, Flock is too much of a breakable card for this deck. I'm so used to just kind of not being able to play around Flock's value no matter what. But this is a matchup where I can absolutely play to brick it. And I should be. It's also like somewhat over-respecting Draven. The Draven doesn't really mean too much here. If we had either a Tom or a second Srock in hands, I think we're okay with like having him commit to kill one of them. But without a second one in hands, we can't do that. It's just too risky. So we draw the Tom here. We're probably completely forced to play it this turn. There's really no way around that. Tom is pretty hard for him to deal with. If he has a Thermo Beam, he could kill it and be pretty safe because we're at 3 mana. If I pass here, I think he should basically always pass back. That might honestly be fine for me, though. But Tom is too important. Yeah, he has actually a good Mushroom Pass here, because he knows that if I play Tom... So he can't Thermo Beam it anymore. He literally can't, I think. Especially if I snap this in. Because now he doesn't have enough to beat Pale. And it's just playing deeper into stuff like Astral. I think because of the first Mushroom, I have to play Tom. If he has Thermo, he should feel like... Basically, I'm bluffing Pale Cascade. Effectively. Yeah, this is a weird matchup. I've prepped this deck, and I've prepped against that deck. But we never prepped this matchup. Just because... Swain is a very weird deck to be playing in general. So he's going to get some surprise value off of that. The scary thing is that against this deck, going down to low health early can be really bad. We can't take too much damage early. I think we have to be okay taking this. This is probably the last damage we can comfortably take, though.
My comestibles are getting cold.
We're taking a lot of damage. If I stabilize with Tom with Astral Projection, we could honestly be fine. He would need to like Mystic Shot here, and we're healing it up so much. It's so hard for him to kill this Tom here. He loses so much value by doing it. We have Guiding Touch for face if we need it. I think in this deck I can go down to 12 pretty easily. I think that's fine.
So what's in store for me?
It's just too risky blocking with Tom. So the risk is if I block with Tom and he Mystic Shots on the stack, then he can like force out Astral when Astral's getting no healing and stuff like that, which can be really, really bad for me. Especially when Tom should be hitting higher value, like eating a Swain or potentially even a Draven. What? So I don't understand that play at all. He's not running Reckoning. What? I actually understand literally nothing about that play. He's about to Progress Day is the only thing that could be. Yeah, he has to be about to Progress Day. He's just making space in his hand. So we know what he's about to do. That's pretty good. If I leave up Acquired Taste. I mean, I do have to play Soraka this turn, I think. It just means we're going to have to skip the Acquired Taste, which I think is fine. Soraka's a little too valuable to play here anyway.
There may be redemption for you yet.
So there's the Progress Day. So I do have the ability to acquire Taste and basically hope he doesn't have the second Flock. He could also actually have Mystic Shot at 1 mana too. His deck is running 3 Mystic Shots, but it would have to have been drawn there. I think the safe play is to just skip the Acquired Taste. I mean, Tahm Kench is basically how we win this matchup.
I can be patient.
We can't really just give it away for free. I don't think we need to take weird risks here. And I'm not really worried about Progress Day's impact on a game like this, where my deck has the late game because I have a board. This deck doesn't always have the late game, but when you have board states like this, it kind of does. The one kind of scary thing is he's running 1 Scorched Earth, so he actually does have the ability to kill our Star Spring, and we should potentially assume he's going to, right? Which is weird, but we're kind of forced to do that. So it's turn 7. We assume Leviathan should be coming out soon. He could be playing an Arachnoid Sentry, which doesn't lower my ability to do very much since Soraka's heal is pretty weak here. I think this is a pretty free hired gun to develop. He doesn't really have good development punishes with the exception of Sentry, which doesn't really hurt boards like this. Shakedown, bit of an unreliable card, but pretty uniquely good in hands like this. What I need is for him to play, like, if I don't play Acquired Taste, he can kind of not play Swain, and that's a very, very, very big deal. Progress Day, the scary thing about Progress Day is, like, we do have to be aware that any cards in his hand could be discounted by 1 mana, which means our range of what we have to play around is, like, exponentiated, right?
I have consulted the stars.
Which is a very, very big deal.
Board.
Yep, so he stops the Soraka's attack here, but again, on this board state, the Soraka's attack doesn't really matter that much. Nothing weird to do.
Take heart.
His Nexus Health has a somewhat harder time mattering. But now if he moves into like Mystic Shot at Tahm Kench, that becomes a lot worse for him. I have the mana advantage. If I go in with Tahm Kench, I got a 10. He's threatening 6. He can't re-threaten the 4. He'd have exactly 4 mana left.
My comestibles are getting cold.
10.
I know desire. I do enjoy prospect.
Owning the board actually matters a lot here. I think this is actually okay to do. So my Tom now has an Astral Protection, which just kind of nuts him out. If I need it. I don't even need it. But we're still locking him out of Swain, because I'm representing the Astral Protection acquired taste hand. So he's got a Swain here he really wants to play. And now that he's blocked that, he can. But only if he's willing to not play around Astral Protection, which he can't do. So he's thinking about the Swain on his hand, and he's thinking, should he take the risk to develop it? And he might decide he has to, which is very good for us. Let me change the track. So I can't Guiding Touch. The question is, do I Astral now? I don't think I do. With this hand, there's no reason to Astral as aggressively. Pass, leave up the option. So now, all of a sudden, unlike before, this pass kind of tells him I have Astral. Which is fine, because I need to represent it. If he has the Swain, he should, at this point, it's, I think, likely that he realizes he can't play it. Because the odds of me having Astral from his perspective just spiked.
To find me mushrooms.
And now that he's done that, I think I actually go... I can accelerate my Star Spring. The only thing is he could have Scorched Earth. So going like aggressively for the Star Spring win condition might not be right. But I mean, I can honestly eat this Trump Wump and there's nothing he can do about it. I'd have 6 health plus Guiding. I'd have 7 plus Guiding Touch. I do want to be somewhat mana efficient. I guess I just Guiding Touch now. He's under mana for the ability to play Swain, so now we can just Guiding Touch. And I think we touch our face easily, actually. No, but then we're not... Well, no, so we're still drawing a card off of Soraka. Let's touch our face here. I'm scared of my face. Pale Cascade is a sick draw. That feels good. So, you see what happened here. He couldn't have played Swain because I was passing. And now that he didn't play Swain and he spent his mana and no longer has the Swain, now I can Pale my face, which I couldn't have done before he passed not having Swain anymore, because if he had Swain, I needed Astral plus Acquired Taste. But now I can basically skip all of that, which is really, really nice. And represent my options reactively as a threat without pre-committing to anything, right? Just be a little bit more... Wow, he got 2 mushrooms off of that. Jeez. That hurts a little bit. But this is kind of how you have to play Tom Soraka. This is also a good lesson for just like control mirrors in general. Like that sort of interaction happens very, very, very commonly. Which is just... It's not a mind game even. Like I assume he has Swain on his hand and he assumes I have Astral Protection in hand. And we're both playing assuming that. And he's the one who has to spend his mana first. Which means I force him to do that and then I'm able to Guiding Touch and... be a little bit more efficient by playing the Guiding Touch there. So he's just doing another cheeky burst pass. Like, with playstyles like this, this idea of like burst passing is really important. I mean, I can open with a Bayou Brunch, honestly. The ability to make my Tom a bit healthier is really nice. And he literally can't possibly threaten my Tom through Astral Protection. Astral Protection is kind of an insane card in terms of this kind of matchup and what we need in this kind of board. Like, he can't really do much to this. Bayou Brunch was a hilariously good draw in this position, actually. So the scary thing is, again, he could Scorched Earth our Star Spring, which means we have to kill him through Nexus damage. But we have the kind of board that I think makes that all right. So look at what's happening here. He's got a Leviathan that he wants to play but can't. Look at my hand. I have Acquired Taste, plus I have Astral Protection. And because Leviathan costs so much mana, if he passes back to me with 8 mana, I'll play Boxtopus and go down to 6. And then I'll still have Acquired Taste plus Astral, because I'll have 6 mana. If he passes again with his 8 mana, I'll pass. If he spends it on Leviathan, I have a counter. And if he spends it on something other than Leviathan, I should have answer to that, but then also I can spend more of my mana too, right? And that's like the dynamic of control decks in Runeterra, which is like, it's not a mind game. It's this back and forth zigzag around, like having the action and being able to outpass your opponent, basically. Like, he's screwed here. He wants to play Leviathan, but he can't, and he knows he can't. And when he passes to me, I'll play Boxtopus. And then he'll kind of have to play Leviathan, and he should lose off of that. Because at that point, he's burning too much mana if he passes. He could, maybe he could play like Swain or something. You know, there's middle grounds, but those aren't necessarily great answers either. So he's doing a Mushroom Cloud Burst Pass. Now keep in mind, because these control mirrors generate so much, there's so much about this pass mentality. Burst passes are very strong. What a burst pass is when you play a burst speed spell and then pass, or you can do this with any action, but usually burst spells are very cheap. I now have to act first. He's basically giving me proactivity to give himself reactivity. So now I have to play Boxtopus. Luckily, I have a good answer to that, because, I mean, he still can't play Leviathan, and he shouldn't feel comfortable about playing Swain either. I'm basically 180k. So there's the Swain, and now he's only representing 3 mana. Which means there's not really anything he can do when I go in to eat the Swain with the Tahm Kench, right? Which is really, really nice. If I go in to do it now, my Tahm Kench is under threat of 3, Astral goes 8, and then basically, even if he has a double flock hand, my Tahm is fine. There's a very weird triple flock hand that actually could be an issue for me. It actually, well, there's a chance we lose to a triple flock hand. The sad thing is, because Bayou Brunch increases Tom's max HP, I can't actually stop Flock by giving him 10 max HP with Astral. Which is funny. But, of course, I mean, I couldn't have done that without the Bayou Brunch's HP anyway. So yeah, that's kind of the mentality that's most important in Runeterra, if you're coming from other games. Like, Kibler, you know, obviously not knowing that was Kibler's biggest mistake, just not playing reactively and not playing for spell mana. Because the ability to just, like, stay reactive and counter whatever your opponent is doing at any point in time is just far, far too valuable. And spell mana is really, really powerful for that in specific matchups. This being one of them. So, yeah, in slower games. But the thing about Runeterra is, like, even in more proactive matchups, you usually see these patterns. And this is why I'm not too afraid of landmark removal, because when we look at a game like this, even if he kills my Star Spring, I still feel pretty good. And again, he can never play Leviathan. And this is why single turn expensive cards that are potentially answerable like this are bad. He can literally never play the Leviathan, right? Which has to, you know, that's super awkward for him. He needs to be able to play that card or he loses. Like, even if he has Leviathan Flock, I have an answer to that, which is hilarious because that means I actually have an attack here, even though I kind of shouldn't. So we can just full attack with these. This is a sweet attack. One of the cool things you can do with attacks is you can pass priority to your opponent. Again, keep in mind, you want to be reactive in these matchups. So like how he was doing like the Mushroom Cloud and passing priority to me to gain the reactive option, I can do the same by open attacking, right? Which sometimes in control mirrors, you'll do a really weak open attack. Like, so you can attack with a 0 attack unit to do that, right? Sometimes. And sometimes you can do a really weak attack just for the ability to have that priority, right? Which I know is super counterintuitive. So he's starting exact lethal on my Soraka. Here, I mean, I can like shake down into Pale Cascade. We do want to keep mana options open, but he tapped under Leviathan, which means I don't need to keep my mana options as open anymore, right? I certainly can't let my Soraka die for free here, so I'm pretty happy just doing like a shakedown into Pale Cascade just to like redraw, rethreaten. Looks pretty good. I think this is, yeah, basically I just want the ability to draw the card off of Pale. So it's a weird shakedown, didn't really do much, but that's fine. Doesn't need to do more than that. And you'll see now, like, the way this game played out, this is why I used Guiding Touch on my face even so early. Because that's the one scary thing his deck does. It can sometimes kill me very, very quickly. So I have to be very careful about that. So if he doesn't have the landmark removal card, he will just lose here. There's kind of no way around that. I can play the Croaker first. Honestly, if he removes my landmark, then I'll just play Protector next anyway, so it should be totally fine.
So what's in store for me?
These mushrooms. They actually put so many mushrooms on my deck, it's crazy. So it has to be Scorched Earth here, so he doesn't lose on the spot. Ooh, interesting. Yeah, Yeah, I actually could have played around that. I wonder if there's any like weird hands we could actually lose to now. Interesting. I mean, I'm playing Broadback Protector, so I'm just healing. Yeah, I definitely forgot about the flock. What I could have done... No, if I play the Croaker second, then I don't have mana to Yeah, I had to do it exactly like that. That's fine, though. It shouldn't matter, because I'm playing the Broadback Protector anyway, which is just going to heal me up, and he doesn't do anything to Tom. So you'll notice, like, look, I'm not even playing Acquired Taste in my hand, right? That seems weird, because you'd think, oh, in value I need to use this. But if I ever use this card, all I'm doing is letting him play his big thing. This is what Tahm Kench does. He puts the game into a situation where I don't have to play my card, but as soon as he plays Leviathan or Swain, I'll eat it for free. And if he taps under, then I can tap under. But basically, we're just forcing the game into a no-win situation for him. Because we always have the option of Acquired Taste. He has to play into it no matter what. And that's why, like, a lot of people underrated Tahm Kench at first, including myself, when he came out. Because the idea is, you know, people were looking at Acquired Taste as a value card. Tahm Kench looks a lot worse when you think about the game in that way. But when you're thinking about the game in terms of generating reactivity and punishing opponents' play, the fact that this is a cheap card is very, very important. It does a lot for being a cheap card, which means I have the ability to control the mana game. It's not that I pay less mana, it's that I can always threaten this even when I spend my mana on other things. That's why this is important that it's cheap, right? Game one.
Now we gormandize.
So I can queue for game two immediately. My second deck is Shenfura. I'm gonna go ahead and just get up. Do little stretches. Ah, very, very fast jump into game two. Did they not want us to go to game two yet? Did they want us to pause? I assume we're fine to just jump into game two immediately. So Chevalier, we're experiencing Kuvira trolling us right now with this card in our hands. Sharpsight's interesting. It's pretty powerful in this matchup. It's so important to have a unit base, and we have so many tricks. I think I actually kick Sharpsight out of this hands. I think in this matchup, I think we need our this entire deck is combat tricks. Screeching Dragon is also good in this matchup. I actually think Sharpsight would be a bait to keep early. The common mentality would be, oh, if I play Sharpsight early... The common mentality would be, if I play Sharpsight early, then the problem is... Or, sorry, then I can counter Mystic Shot. Yeah, he Thermo Beams this. So he realizes, of course, what this matchup is about. Like, you just want to... You want to kill the little things, right? I'm Demacia. When you're playing against Demacia in general, this is a bit of a broad generalization, but basically you just want to kill all the little things. Or kill all the things in general. Demacia is just a region built around having units on board, and Demacia is very weak when you deny their units. So even like cases like that, you have to use Thermo Beam really. He also has to play around Prismatic Barrier, which means he didn't really have the ability to try to Thermo something big later, because Prismatic Barrier can only counter a big Thermo on a medium-sized unit. So he's completely forced into that play there. Unfortunately, I think with that hands... Honestly, I might have needed to play Tracker on turn 2. Just to avoid giving him that level of value off of Thermo Beam at all. I could play Young Witch here. It doesn't really do very much, but it's actually a little early to send into spell mana. I need to have some kind of reactive response to things, right? I have no avenue for spell mana. I'll play the Young Witch now. It's close. The 1 damage doesn't really matter. It's not about the 1 damage. It's about whether I want to lock my mana into spell mana, or if I want to be able to use it for unit mana, right? That's the important thing. So Draven shouldn't do very much here. And unfortunately, I only have expensive spells in my hand, which means we kind of have to play... We can't really protect units. So here's the question. The question is, do I play River Shaper here? By tapping to 0 mana, if he has 1 of 5 outs in his deck, 2 Thermo Beams or 3 Mystics, he used 1 Thermo, then we get screwed in a way that doesn't counter his play. Unfortunately, given this hand state, I don't know how much I can really counter his play anyway, and I need the Laurent Chevalier to be able to challenge the Draven, I think. So I think I'm actually happy playing River Shaper here. Let's let him attack us first, though.
Watch and learn.
Just in case. If he didn't attack us there, then it would have been worth it, but he's probably going to attack us first either way. And yeah, it's kind of awkward, but the Chevalier really sucks in this deck. So I'm kind of like, just to even protect the Chevalier, I'm forced to play the Shape Route now. If I pass, he has way too good of a pass back. And this is why, like, control is very powerful in Runeterra. Because the game is so fundamentally reactive. Like, I can't pass here. And the odds are he actually doesn't have that many good ways of killing Chevalier. His best way is probably Gotcha. Wow. He drew Mystic Shot off the top there. So that's second Mystic Shot. We actually had pretty good odds of being able to survive with that Chevalier there. Just because his deck has so, like, you know, we've already forced Thermo and Mystic. Forced the last Mystic. But yeah, we just traded down 2 mana. Chevalier obviously doing literally nothing there.
I got ways to find me mushrooms.
We might have no choice but to put the Caretaker here. The Caretaker does a decent job of stopping both attacks potentially, just because I'm representing Repost. By doing that, I'm basically telling him I have Repost, but I think I kind of have to.
I am one with the land.
So hopefully, there's a few ways this can go. He could pass. I suspect he realizes that a pass here. Wow, that's great for me. I love that. So now I can't play cards. Because, again, the only reason he didn't attack me there was because I still have Repost mana. So we have to bank spell mana and go next. We're burning 1 mana here, but that's fine. It doesn't matter because we want to just, like, play reactively as much as possible. So now we can go ahead and actually start, you know, playing for the board and making sure we're making his plays as awkward as possible. First question is, do we Shen or Screeching Dragon first? Screeching Dragon first looks good. He has very few ways of answering it. Shen doesn't really attach much to this board. And the ability to give things barriers actually doesn't really matter here. I mostly just want to trade down his board. Actually, that could be wrong. Honestly, Shen is probably fine here. I'm not going to Screeching Dragon and, like... I mean, I'm not going to stop him from being able to play Swain here. It's the only way this is... Getting this to 3 attack actually matters so much. And he can't deal the 5 damage either way. I will play Shen here. It's a close one. Shen gives us the ability to strike this turn, which we don't really need. We're fine without it. Sentry is pretty good here. Yeah, we don't really have the ability to punish Sentry. That feels bad. But Sentry would have cleaned up whether we had Screeching Dragon or Shen either. And so, like, now when you're thinking about the game in terms of this back and forth, thinking about passing, it's so important to realize, like, if I pass, he can't deny himself the Sentry. I don't have because I'm the proactive deck, I don't have the ability to pass there because he passes back and gets closer to Leviathan. But whichever play I go for here, he's gonna counter with Sentry and make me feel bad. And there's not really a way around that. That's just like the advantage you get for playing control over aggro sometimes.
Who goes there?
I think forcing out my own Repost on his option is never worth 2 damage here. I think that's got to be just Giga Trolly. I can't represent any, like, weird challengers. It's literally, at 2 mana, it's impossible to represent anything spooky. So I guess I'll just spend my attack token on this attack here. If I had 3 mana or something like that, I could do a weird, like, you could pass, and then when he's, you know, he couldn't play a unit because maybe I have Young Witch into Fiora. But I can't represent anything at 2 mana because Fleet Feather doesn't even start with Challenger. So it looks like we're stuck on passing here, which is fine. We don't need to be mana efficient in this game. It's not about playing on curve. I mean, it can definitely be, but not always and not matchups like this. That's what I like so much about Runeterra. Like, I think the spell mana system is so genius. It creates so many interesting piloting decisions. So now we've got the 10 banked, which means we do have the ability to represent Screeching plus Concerted in the same turn, which is kind of important. I have to play Screeching here. I don't think keeping up, like, the only argument against it is keeping up Stand United plus Repost, but I don't think that's worth it. His deck has a pretty hard time dealing with Screeching Dragon. Thermal Beam is really bad into a deck that has Prismatic Barrier, because he can never use it on medium-sized units. And the entire point of Thermal Beam as a card is the ability to use it on medium-sized units. Interesting. That's very, very interesting. So how much can he actually damage my unit to get it in range for the Draven? He would need 2 options. And then even then, I could have single combat. Yeah, I mean, I will just block like this. I'm basically 1/8 gay. The one blocking Draven is a bit riskier. Is that even true?
Understood.
I don't even think that's true, actually. I can't take too much damage here, which is the one awkwardness. I probably do have to block with something like this. And then I'm threatening it, so like if I repost, then he loses the exchange even further. I think playing reactively and keeping repost up as the option has to be good. So we're basically making it so unless he's happy losing his Draven, my Caretaker should kill the Chump Lump for free. Because we'll repost and this will be +2 attack. This feels pretty good to me for that reason.
Now we're cooking.
I'm uncomfortable losing too much health. I'm uncomfortable losing too much health here. So this is very interesting. So he passed the action back to me, which means I can let this through and deny both of us more actions. Or I can play my option and let him respond to it, which is a little scary. But he's played 2 Mystic Shots already, and my Dragon it hasn't even taken damage yet. So I can do something like... So let's say I Concerted Strike the Dragon into, like, killing this Chump Lump. We assume he can't kill my Dragon, so his Chump Lump dies for free, and then my Dragon will get the extra damage, right? So that'll make it also impossible for him to avoid the range with like Mystic Shot. I mean, this actually feels pretty safe. It feels kind of hard for him to respond to this with anything other than like the rarest hands. Maybe like Get Excited plus second Draven for Whirling Death could work. That would be scary. Yeah, that would mess me up if he had. But that's it's a 2-card. It's a like so a rule of this game comes from poker is like playing around single cards is smart. Usually playing around double cards is unnecessary. So he should flock the Dragon, which is a little sad. But it means his hand's running out of steam, which is what we want. I don't know. I might have needed to overprotect the Dragon. I think... like, the problem is we don't have enough to actually represent... Like, our Shen dying is actually better for us there, because we would prefer to have a Shen other than a Shen Stand United. So that's fine. The biggest issue there is... like, we don't have an answer for Leviathan, really. Yeah, he put us in an awkward position. To be able to answer Leviathan, we would have need to keep more cards in our hand. I probably just have to Shen River Shaper here, which feels pretty bad. But I have to play proactive to his option. I really have no other choice.
The eye of twilight sees all.
I got ways to find me mushrooms.
So, I mean, his hand is really tiny, right? He's got all these random tokens that don't really do anything. He's got a 2-card hand, right? 2 face downs, which is good. We have to think about what his range is. Could easily be stuff like Thermo. I'm a lot more scared of like Gotcha here. I'm forced into playing the River Shaper, I think. And the nice thing is, if he has something like Scorched Earth or a second Flock, it's completely useless. So this is the dangerous thing, which is like, we're tapping under the ability to respond, but without a big enough board of units, we have no choice but to tap under the ability to respond. Yeah. So Mystic Shots kind of sucks for us there. We can deal 1 more damage or get the barrier off of Shen. It's too important to not even let him block our Shen. I mean, we're fine here unless his last card is Leviathan. The only problem is we kind of are forced to assume it's Leviathan. I think we played this matchup wrong. We should be more ahead here than we are. The Chevalier really hurt. Not a good top deck.
There is no dispute.
Static Shock actually has a pretty hard time being in his range. I think I might have literally no choice but to assume his range is Get Excited. We're only winning. We're only beating bad hands here. He doesn't really have a good ability to kill either. He can threaten like Static Shock on the Shen. But Static Shock's not... It feels like it's really unlikely that his card is static. Or Folding static either way. I think we have no choice but to stop maximum damage here. The one thing you can make him do is like discard the Mushroom Clouds with the Spinning Axes by attacking the little one. That's optional. But I think we just trade down the board. I don't know, 7 might have no choice being fine. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't really do anything else. Like, I have to pre-commit it here. I have to hope his hand is bricked out. It's pretty easy for that deck to have bricked out hands here, which is the cool thing. Like, his deck could easily have Flock Thermo or something like that. If he drops like a Progress Day or Leviathan here, we just lose. I played the first game pretty well. This one, I think this one was pretty sloppy. I feel like we should have been favored here. I mean, there's no option to keep up. I think there's no upside to not playing the bird here. I'm just giving him the information. If he has, even a Rummage is pretty good against us because it's like a draw too. Yeah, he's just kind of done, you know, he's starved us out of resources. So we're hoping for a pass here. We're hoping his hand sucks. These draws are really bad though, holy shit. Jesus. My last 3 draws have been pretty awkward. Yeah, this was a weird game.
Come on, Rib.
I think even despite some bad, like, I think both of us have really bad hands here. I mean, we have no ability to threaten anything at all. This is super jank. I can't represent any threats. I think I literally just have to play my tracker, as stupid as that is. I just hope his hand keeps blanking. Like, there's no point in keeping up bluffs here. Like, it doesn't lower his value. I mean, anything that he can play is a good hit for him. Rummage was a good hit. It's basically a draw too. Yeah, and he got Swing. So we should lose here. Like, even if we top deck good cards now, we're just kind of out of steam. I think we needed to play a bit more reactively. The awkward thing is, like, this matchup is kind of hard to play reactively. Yeah, he's got Static Shock too. This is a pretty easy concede then. So we go to game 3 in this series. Fiora Shen versus Scouts should be favorable. Yeah, he's good. Alright, game 3. But yeah, that's the weird thing about the game, is that you need to know when to play proactively and when to play reactively. And I think there were a couple turns in there which we should have chilled a bit more. I was kind of like, you always feel like you're under pressure against like hands that, you know, you expect the Leviathan to come out at 8, so there's a bit of a time clock. But we could have played for a little bit more value. A couple of things like playing Fleet for the Tracker on turn 1 was probably wrong. I didn't have to give him a perfect Thermo there like that. I should have played Tracker on like turn 2 and just not played Young Witch. Because there's just not that much of a threat to it. He had a good early hand. He kind of bricked out by not drawing anything later. But he had everything he needed early in that matchup. Like Thermo, double Mystic Draven. He had kind of the perfect early hand and then bricked out later. It's so hard. We're attacking on odds. I think Shen has to be a lot less good if we're attacking on odds. I think I do this. So this is a weird mulligan. We almost have a perfect curve, but it's really important to have something for the Protector to latch onto. We need to mulligan aggressively for them. We can't keep stuff like Screeching Dragon, because on those turns we kind of want to be tricking out anyway. So let me go ahead and load this up. So I think it's just tracker here. Bright Seal on 2. Tracker threatens a lot more over the course of the game. And he's not, the thing is he's not attacking on odds, which means I don't actually need to threaten Caretaker by turn 3. Because his Misfortune's getting his first attack on 4, which means I can like threaten the Caretaker then probably. Is all right.
I deal in coins and carnage.
Okay. So he gets the pretty good play, the hired gun. So we Bright Steel Protector, keep our card alive, I guess. I could also pass and be okay sharp sighting. Sharp sight's a great trick here. He kind of can't attack because of sharp sight, which feels really good. And he's out of mana, so he has no re-response. Then next turn, we have a pretty sweet play if he takes this attack. And he's kind of forced into this attack because otherwise the tracker is just going to challenge anything else. And next turn, we can like Caretaker, Protector maybe. Feels really good. We do need to shut down Misfortune though. And sharp sight's like a really, really valuable potential trick later. Tap under any tricks at all. Do I need a trick?
Don't stand in my way.
Young Witch is, I think, a pretty sick draw. I could do like Caretaker, Young Witch. He can never play Misfortune. Caretaker leaves me flexible to playing Protector too, depending on what he does. And I think I like Caretaker the best here.
Protect their own.
We have a better hand this time. So Protege is a little bit more annoying. We can Protector and just deal 6 damage to him, basically, is alright. His Protege will be able to 2-for-1 if we do that. I don't know that there's any getting around that, though. Using Protector like this actually just feels too proactive. I think we're not the aggressor in this matchup at all. I think we should always outvalue. I think I just pass and bank the mana. Banking the mana for single combat is really important. And dealing damage to him, I think, like, we're not racing him down. We're not punishing bad hands. His entire deck is aggro. Single combat has too much of a chance of doing something. Double Protege is really good against my deck, though. Protege cleans up against my deck. Especially hands like this. Like, both of these Proteges are 2-for-1ing for free, basically. He could skip. And I think this kind of has to be the Fiora action. If I don't play Protector now, I'm threatening like the 3-for-1 on my own Caretaker.
I'm basically 180k.
I long for a worthier.
That's fine though.
Hardly fair.
Yeah, the double Protege hand is really scary. That being said, I mean, it is somewhat of a value-oriented matchup. And I can't really go in for a single combat here. So his version of the list is running 3 Sharp Sight and 2 Ranger's Resolve. I can combat the smaller one to play around Resolve, but Sharp Sight will mess me up a little too much. So now I can basically play out the hand, which is really nice. I can like River Shaper and start drawing cards to make his value options very awkward. We can't really rely on Young Witch's quick attack because he's running Repost, which gives barrier. So I think I just open play River Shaper here and then give it a barrier
Water changes, but
and try to draw off of this River Shaper. Being able to draw, like, this River Shaper is so important here. I need to draw, like, if I draw a Repost or a Concerted Strike, I feel good in this matchup. But if I don't, I can feel bad very fast. Yeah, this is bad. I think he's ahead right now. He's got a better start for like given the matchup. I think this deck is favored into that one, but he's got the hand that deck needs to win this matchup, basically.
You're covered.
So my River Shaper basically has a guaranteed draw here, which is nice. He's got 6 mana, which is fascinating. So the question is, do I attack with the Fiora? If he plays Repost, I can probably trade with a single combat. He has a safe pass there, just because of that.
I long for a worthy opponent. Let them eat swords. En garde.
I think this should be fine. I don't think he's getting any value out of Resolve here. There's some options that could force the single combat. Like what, Sharp Sight plus Resolve? So I have to play this button now so that we don't lose to Bannerman. Because if he has Bannerman post-combat, we're screwed by not committing the single now. And there's actually some hands that would be able to have Bannerman. So he resolves. So we give him a resolve, but we didn't give him an amazing resolve, right? At the end of the day, like, he's just keeping a Protege alive. That's good for us. Like, that's a pretty weak resolve. And our River Shaper is drawing 2 cards, which is absolutely huge here. And surviving, so it's going to draw us a 3 card. And that's really important. So usually he's thinking about a Relentless Pursuit here. Pursuit's a little scary, but he would have to send the track. Oh, the tracker actually doesn't have Challenger yet. He doesn't have a great answer to my Protector. I can almost guarantee, like, the only thing he can think about playing there and then not play is Pursuit, I'm pretty sure. Could be like Unit plus Repost. But we don't want to play around Relentless Pursuit. So this is the condition of the matchup. We're mostly only scared of like Misfortune, and we just want to make sure we're outvaluing him long term. We had a hand that was very vulnerable to losing the outvalue, but the River Shaper felt pretty good there.
It found you.
I think I literally just have to kill that Misfortune right now. Like, he can't actually counter. The funny thing is, he can't actually counter a Concerted Strike on the Misfortune right now. Like, Repost doesn't do it, because River Shaper strikes first and takes it off. Ranger's Resolve doesn't do it. He doesn't have single combat in that deck to respond in that way. And of course, the Concerted Strike threatens drawing another card here. So it's very, very important that we click the Shaper first before the Protector. A, because it means the Shaper gets the draw. And B, because it means we beat Repost. If we did them in the other order, Shaper wouldn't get to draw, and if he had Repost, then his Misfortune wouldn't even die, because the 3 attacks before at that point, which would be really, really bad. He's really not threatening almost anything by doing this. I just want to keep my options maximally flexible. This is like a totally fine attack. I could single combat. We're not actually even, like, what are we under threat of? A Sharp Sight if I single combat? Wouldn't I be happy if he sharp-sighted there? He has a decent, like, damage push Repost. I think because he's got the floated mana, I'm better off just passing. I don't need more card advantage. I have every card I could need here. And we're keeping his board narrow, so Relentless Pursuit isn't really doing anything. So now I've got Protege, plus Young Witch, plus all the spells I need, right? And his board is narrow, which means cards like Vanguard Bannerman and Cythria, which would normally be very scary cards, kind of suck. Okay, it's still a little scary. So he's got 4 mana, could be Repost, but we can potentially counter Repost. So we can just go ahead and... I guess we're just Young Witching here. It taps us out under single plus Prismatic. So the scary thing is, like, if it reposts, I might just trade it with Prismatic. That's not very scary. It's not very scary at all. I want, like, one decent-sized unit in this hand. This hand needs a Screaming Dragon very badly. Is the one thing we're really missing. Is it possible we could ever need 2 single combats here? Is there a hand state that could demand 2 single combats here? Or can I just play both? Well, I don't want to... Like, it's so likely his card is repost. I can't just have my protege die for free.
This way. Go.
This is a good trade, though. Like, trading repost for barrier, dealing face damage, and 1-to-1 trades are what I want to do right now. Right? It's kind of like, oh man, what if I single combat the witch into that? Is that better? Killing the protege is actually so important. Like, keeping his board narrow is how I'm winning this game. How much is this young witch doing? Yeah, I kind of have to. Yeah, I should have played my other young witch. I lost out on 2 damage. I guess I only lost out on 1 damage because the young witch. Yeah, but I lost out on 1 damage for pretty little reason. No, maybe this actually is better. Honestly, maybe I had to play it exactly like this, just because Bank of the Mana is worth more than just 1 damage. Would have been 2 because I can single combat the 1 attack young witch. And but 2 damage, I don't think that can really matter here. I need to remain flexible in my options as much as possible. There's some draws that we actually might want to keep a full banked mana for. And that is more important here, I think.
Break their spirits and their souls.
Yeah, River Shaper's good.
The land and give it life.
I'm one of the good guys, but not.
So yeah, he's pretty screwed here. The funny thing is, if he has Ranger's Resolve, his Misfortune almost lives. And again, we have to attack with the River Shaper first. It still dies because we have the other single combat.
A gift from the river folk.
Don't hold.
So he deals a little bit of damage, and he does kill off our River Shaper. But it looks like we just have like the long-term value game here. Like, we've kept his board narrow. We've done everything we need to just like close this out now. And River Shaper has drawn a lot of cards here.
What form will the waters take? Waters are still.
I can actually Young Witch here just because I'll always have enough mana to play, like, for this hand, what I might need to play. It's actually pretty likely his last card is Relentless Pursuit as well, which would do literally nothing here. And because his Lorn Protege got permanently healed, I do need to do this. So we just played the left card. It was Resolve, alright. So Resolve shouldn't really do much here. I basically want to use my least valuable tool killing that. What is my least valuable tool? I mean, if I repost it now, I can just strike down the Cytheria afterwards anyway. Actually, the Cytheria wouldn't die because she has the Tough this turn. That's a little awkward, actually. I mean, we can't really be dying or losing, but I guess there's nothing I can really do here. I can do like a weird single combat plus barrier play. I think that can't be right. Yeah, I guess I'm just chilling. So he played Resolve from the right side of his hand, I'm pretty sure. Which means his left side is random top deck, I think. I mean, keeping his board narrow is important. He's just going to challenge me next turn anyway. Yeah, I guess we're just passing. Looks like we actually have no option here. Very strange.
This is my opponent.
I mean, I can threaten the Cytheria with Concerted Strike. If he uses Repost plus like Relentless Pursuit, I mean, all it could do is force out Barrier, right?
My eyes make it fair.
Can't really do much. plays from the left side. Sharp sight. Okay. So we win our series. It was not played perfectly, and including Lawrence Chevalier in that deck almost lost us the series. But we had the better lineup, and we played fine. Not perfectly, but we played well enough to win with a better lineup. For sure. Definitely, I suspect it should have been a 2-0, especially with a better version of the deck. It should have been a 2-0. I'm overall fine with that, though. The lineup worked well overall. It did everything it wanted to do as a lineup. Okay. Cool. Oops. Okay. So yeah, it looks like the league team is going to be up now. So again, this is like a weird team event. I am playing alongside my team. For those of you guys who don't know, my league team, I'm playing LOR with Kibler, and my league team is Celine, Emiru, Tyler1, Trick2G, and Void Boy. I think it'll be fun watching their league games now. I guess I'll restart my stream so that we don't have the delay. So yeah, let me restart my stream right now. And then I guess we're going to be here for like 2 hours, and then we're playing more Runeterra after 2 hours. So I'm just going to keep restarting my stream, I guess, to like add and remove the delay. So I'm going to be back for you guys this time. It'll just be like 10 seconds and I'll be back. So just refresh the page or something.